It's 4 o'clock on my end here. Welcome to Introduction to Cybersecurity class being handled by the African Center of Excellence in Technology Enhanced Learning, CISCO Academy, that's the National Open University of Nigeria. I'm going to be one of the instructors for this class, but I have my Oga here, joined to this live call, is Mr. Segun Buhari. Please, can you give us a wave if you're on the call? I can see you. All right, sir, is one of our lead instructors for this course in CISCO, ACETEL-CISCO Networking Academy. So in a short while, I'll be sharing my slides, and then we'll try to walk through chapter 1 together. Now, for those of us who have not actually gone through chapter 1, we're going to try to explain it in such a way that you will have a better, or you have a good understanding of what we are talking about even before you get the materials or you get to start interacting with the resources for this very course. So that means I'm going to be going slowly, and then at the just towards the end of the class, we're going to be taking questions from those of us who have actually gone through the material. Actually, the material is very easy to understand. It's a self-paced course, the entire course, Introduction to Cybersecurity course by CISCO, and it's something you can do on your own, even without instructor. But the ACETEL-CISCO Academy is trying to ensure that we get that contact session to try to explain some certain things to you, especially for those of us who are not too grounded in all these things. So that's just the benefit that we are adding to this particular course. It's self-paced, just about 15 hours. If you're not doing too much during your day, you can actually finish this in 2 to 3 days. That's even giving yourself a lot of time. I've had people who has actually finished it in a day, but that was the only thing that we're doing, of course. But if you have a whole lot of things that you do, of course, you can space it to a week. You can even space it to a month. We give a month for this course, so you can do it all throughout that time and beyond. And then for those who have completed this course, there's actually another one. That is Cybersecurity Essentials, that goes a little bit, to the next level when it comes to cybersecurity. So this is an introductory course to try to make us understand the need for cybersecurity. Why do you need cybersecurity as an individual? Why do you need to have knowledge of cybersecurity while you're working at your workplace? And how do you safeguard your data? Do you actually have data? Is there any reason for data? What is data itself? Does my data have value? Is anybody trying to attack me? Do I need to have a lot of money before I get targeted? Do I need to use a system before I get targeted? Do I need to even use the internet entirely before I get targeted? What are the techniques? What are the practices, the processes of getting attacked or getting targeted by bad actors on the internet? So we're going to be reviewing all of this together. And I'm very sure, I'm confident that by the end of this lesson, you will get a good understanding of why you need cybersecurity, and then the things that you can do to protect your data. So that's entirely what this introductory course is all about. And I'm very sure that we'll be happy by the end of this course. So at some point, I'll be looking towards my screen here because I have the webcam here, so I'm still with you. So I just want to try to share my screen now so that we can get on with the class. Just to check, sound check. I hope we're all hearing me, so it won't be I'm the one speaking to myself alone. I just need one person to just let me know that we're still together. Just one person in chat. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Maduka, for that notification. Okay, thank you. We are together. So I'm going to share my screen now. Right now, you can't unmute yourself. There's going to be a time for question and answer, and there is going to be a very little time. We're going to go through a particular lab within the course. For those of us who have actually completed chapter 1, you will find out that there was a lab. There was a lab there that has to do with hashing, and which actually centered around integrity, having to ensure that your data or the data that is in transit or maybe at a position is what it is meant to be, not tampered with, not changed, and all of that. You understand what I'm trying to say when we get into the course. So I'm going to try to do that lab live for us, especially for those of us who do not have systems that will be able to practice it. So practice it together so you get to understand how this thing works. It's actually a very, very small application that we downloaded. For those who have been able to do it, you find out that you will relate with me that it's actually something that is very easy to do. All right. I believe my screen is visible to everyone right now. Let me get the charts so that I can see. Okay, thank you. I want to believe this is a new message from Mavi Chinda, confirming that you can all see my screen. Can we all see my screen? Just a second check. All right, thank you, Nana, Kojo, and everyone for clarifying. So the need for cybersecurity. So once again, I'm also welcoming you to Introduction to Cybersecurity, version 2.1. So why is Cisco doing all of this? You know, with the whole advent of COVID-19 pandemic, where everybody actually had to be connected because you couldn't go outside anyway. So the only way you can, of course, communicate to people is to be online. And that gave rise to a whole lot of cybercrime, especially because everyone now knows, in fact, the cyber threat actors now knew that, of course, everybody is online. And there are a lot of people online who do not have a good understanding on how to protect themselves online. So that gives to confirm for those of us in the younger generations where your parents will tell you, oh, don't upload your picture, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, I'm happy to tell you, you know, if they are in the house, they're actually right, you know, in some certain instances, because not all your data has to be outside there. They may have had other reasons for saying that, but they are right. Let's just put it that way. You don't have to put all your data out there. And in this course, we'll be trying to get you to understand what your data is and what it means by actually having data. Is your data that important? We're going to be learning all about that. So let's look at the highlights of things we'll be learning today. I'll be going through them briefly. We're going to be understanding what personal data is, and then we're also going to be understanding what organization data is. For those of us who are working, what can qualify as an organizational data? What are the data that you have as an organization while you're working there? We're going to be getting a good understanding of attackers. Who are these guys that actually try to, you know, gain some certain things from you and all that? So attackers and cybersecurity professionals. And then we're going to be looking at cyber warfare, what it means, and then we'll try to understand what we can do as individuals. Well, really not much, but what we can do as individuals, but most importantly, what we can do as professionals to ensure that data is safe, either as an individual or as an organization or as a country at large. So we are going to be actually, there's a certain example that was used for this cyber warfare, which is the Stuxnet, the particular cyber attack on Iran's nuclear plant. But I'm not going to dwell too much on that because it's something that happened in the past. And we're going to use a very recent example so that we get to understand how important cybersecurity is and why it is important for everyone to have a good understanding of what it is, to have an awareness of what it is, and to ensure that we protect ourselves online at all times. So what is personal data? You know, I was asking, do you actually have data? What's data in itself? What qualifies as your data and all that? So we are going to be exploring an introductory session into what personal data is. But before we go that, we're going to understand what cybersecurity is in itself. Now, for those of us who have gone through the material, you'll find out that there was a certain word they used. They say it's a continuous action, you know, towards the protection of network system and data from unauthorized use or harm. Now, why did they use that phrase, ongoing efforts, a continuous something? Because the whole world of cybersecurity is rapidly changing. The way the attackers try to exploit vulnerabilities yesterday is not going to be the same way that they will use today. And it's not going to also be the same way that they will use tomorrow. So what that means is that you also, as an individual, need to keep updating yourself, constantly getting good courses, you know, getting abreast with all the information that concerns, you know, cybersecurity and how you can keep yourself safe at all times. I can see that a lot of us are raising our hands. We're going to get to that point where we ask questions later on during this course. Now, your online and offline identity. Now, let's talk about your personal data. We've defined cybersecurity in the most basic sense of it is all the things that you do to ensure that your data or whatever data you have, or your system, whatever network devices that you have is protected at all times. Now, those of us who went through the material, you find out, okay, there are some certain terms that were used that you may not understand yet, but we're going to be trying to, give some certain clarification as to what those things mean. I'm sure some of you saw something like phishing. Some of you must have gone online and then you see phishing, and then some of you will say you see whaling, spear phishing. What are those? What do they mean? What are the measures you can take to ensure that you don't fall a victim for all these things? And you'll get to understand them later. And you find out that they're actually very simple things. They're just using extreme technical terms for it. Just to sound all nice and cool. But we're going to break all of that down so you understand what it is, botnets and the rest. We'll try to talk about them so we'll all be on the same page. So please, if I'm moving too fast, let me know. And if there's something you have, a question you have, jot it down somewhere. And then later on, I'll give a prompt for us to start dropping it on the comments section so that we'll be picking them one after the other, and then we'll be answering them together. We're trying to ensure that we don't, allow everybody to unmute themselves so that we don't have this place crowded. So you have two types of data, really. You have your offline data. Your offline data, that has to be people around you, your identity that interacts on a regular basis. Let me put this up so that we can see this better. All right, so we can move together. So your identity that interacts on a regular basis at home, your school or work, that's your offline data. Your name, those are things that people know about you as an individual while you're at home, your environment, your neighbors, what do they know about you? You have a dark hair, you have this, you are from this state, you're from this local government, you are this, you go to this, you work here, you do this, you do that, this kind of business you engage in. Now, those are offline data. Of course, they can also be online data when you put them on the internet. So your identity while you are in cyberspace is your online identity. Now, there are some of us who are cyber aware and do not post much of our information online. What you want your online participants to know about you is what they know. So when you post your entire life online, everybody knows everything about you. So your online identity is what you actually upload, whether it's a shop like Jumia or something, or whether it's on Facebook. Most of us use Facebook, whether it's your Instagram, your Twitter account, whatever accounts that you have, your social media accounts in general, what you put online, things about yourself and all that. That's your online identity. Now, I was talking about the fact that we should try to reveal only a limited amount of information about yourself. You'll get to understand why I'm saying this. Not because, we've been hearing advices, okay, don't put up your pictures and all of that. Well, they may have other reasons for saying that. Maybe they don't want, village people to take your picture to somewhere and all that. But we are talking about your data, not just your pictures alone, but your data. Why do you need to limit the amount of information you share online? A lot of us have an understanding of why we should do this. And then we are going to also review some of the things that you might not have actually been aware of, and then you might have been aware of, but we'll try to bring everybody up to speed onto why you should really just reveal a limited amount of information about yourself. Now, your username or your alias, that's what people recognize you online with. There are some people who don't have their real names on Facebook. There are people who have Pretty Queen, Beauty Queen, Lord Raoul, and all of that as their Facebook name, as their Twitter names. And there are people who have their full names, on their social media platform and all of that. I'm not saying it's wrong in any way. It's just what you want to be known for on your online space. That's just what I'm talking about, your online identity. Now, should not include people, when we're talking about your username or alias, it should not include any personal information, should be appropriate and respectful, should not attract unwanted attention. Now, well, this might be subjective to mean you don't necessarily have to put, especially if you're putting yourself on a space that you're not entirely sure about, it's not advisable to put out your real information out there for people. So that's what this is trying to talk about. Just a second. All right, sorry about that. So your username should be something that is appropriate and respectful if you're going to be making use of usernames on your social media handles, whatever it is that you're putting up as your online data. It should be respectful on all times. And then it shouldn't be this sort of username that will attract attention to yourself. There are people who have, you can have username and then put yourself billionaire prince, money man, and all of that. So you probably might be attracting some certain type of attention to yourself, dollar person, dollar man, dollar woman, whatever it is that we put out there that could actually put attention on ourselves. So we should try as much as possible to guide against that. All right, let's move to the next part where we try to talk about our data. So what actually consists of your data? We have your medical records, we have your educational records, and we have your employment and financial record. That's for those of us who are talking about medical records. We're talking about the things that you give to your doctors as your data, your medical, your health records and all that. For those who go to federal medical centers and all that, when you're trying to, well, I can't say if this is applicable everywhere, but you go to your doctor after maybe doing a test or whatever, and then there's a consultancy room where, there's a system in front of the doctor, asks you certain questions, what's this, what's that, it points into the system, do you have this certain trait in your family and all of that, blah, 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 just to try to ascertain what might be the cause of whatever it is that you went there for, even if it's just a routine checkup and all of that. And you will notice for some places, your prescription, the prescription of your drugs, most of the time is not even given to you. It's just, sent into a system and they say, okay, go to the pharmacy, give them the certain slip or your identity number for the hospital, and then they will generate whatever it is that was prescribed by the doctor and all of that. And then you just from there, you get the drugs and then you go home. So that record is actually a data. That's your medical data. As your medical records is kept with the, it can actually be physical, it can be your physical data, mental data, and other personal information. And then most of the times it's actually stored either with the hospital or with the doctor or with the pharmacy, but right within the system of let's say the medical space or the hospital itself. And then we have your education records, your grades, your test scores, your course taking. That's with your school, your awards, your degrees, and all of that. Disciplinary reports for those who were not too very good in school and had one issue or the other. Most of these things are stored in certain places, especially your records in school. You may have access to it, of course. For example, you have, if your school does that, you have a certain portal where you have your information, your record is there, your results is there. If you've done anything wrong, your disciplinary report is there, everything. And you need to access those data using a username and a password, like an authentication method to get access to that. So that is actually data about you. And then your employment and financial record, this is actually very self-explanatory, where you work and the kind of work that you do, the monies that you receive, your information with your bank, how much you have, how many banks you bank with, and all of that. That is also a record. Now, all these things together constitute your data. So even on your let's say your social media handles and the rest, chilling things. I'm going to Mentama today. I'm traveling to Enugu today, or in Enugu chilling in Cubana hotels, enjoying life. All these are data about your places you visited and all of that. And from that you can someone can get to understand, okay, this guy is here, he stays around here. Yeah, this is kind of life he lives, this is kind of places he goes to, this is where he goes to chill. So these are data about you. These are things that constitute your data. The kind of things you buy, especially on Jumia. If you notice, most of us who buy things online, you find out that you can buy just one wristwatch or maybe you just clicked on one shirt just to see if this shirt is going to be good or fine. And then you just find out that the next time you are browsing at somewhere, they're already, advertising one kind of shirt to you. And you're wondering, but I didn't even ask for you to, I didn't ask you to start showing me anything about shirts and all of that. Well, it's because it's certain data has been gathered about you, especially by the platform where you were. You clicked on that shirt because you were interested. So there's that data that's been gathered. This person probably might be interested in a shirt. So let's keep giving this guy shirts. Or you clicked on a wristwatch. You find out that almost everywhere you go, as long as you're logged into the account or to the Google account that you used in clicking on that, whatever it is you clicked on, or that same browser, you get to see different advertisement tailored to what you have been interacting with. So that goes to show that every single thing you do online generates data. So that is your data, that's your personal data, and it's part of what we'll be talking about to ensure that it is protected at all times. Of course, I talked about this. Where is your data? Your data is your medical, your doctor's office, insurance company, and all of that. Your online pictures is your data. Marketing partner use profiles to target advertisement. I just talked about that. Your devices, your computer, your phone, your mobile devices, your laptops, your tablets, and all of that. Those are the data stores or storage for you. In fact, most of us live our lives online now, especially on our phone. Everything about you is just on the go, it's just there. So this now is your store of data. Everything, once I get your phone, I can get vast amounts of information about you, whether it's your medical record, well, not necessarily your medical record, but I get your financial records, your social status, and all of that. I'm gotten from your mobile devices. So how is your personal data or what makes your data a target to threat actors, bad actors, or whatever names they call, we are actually used to hackers and all of that? What makes it interesting? So your online credentials, that's your username and your password, whether it's logging into your bank or logging into your insurance company or logging into anything that has data that has to do with financial records. So it gives thieves access to your account. Now, also trick you into wiring money to your friends or family. That has to do with phishing, email scams, business email scams, and the rest, and phishing. Now, I talked about phishing and phishing. They are parts of a group of social engineering methods where people try to access information about you, tricking you into revealing information about you. I'm sure many of us get those phone calls and say, hello, I'm from your bank, you have a problem with your ATM card, I want to try to resolve it for you, blah, 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 and the rest. That's an example of phishing. That's a voice phishing. Phishing is phishing. It's a term, it's a social engineering term for trying to extract information from you. Now the phishing part, just taking out that ph and putting it with v, is the voice where they call you, try to extract information from you. You'll be hearing things like, okay, what's your BVN number? Or some of them can even have your BVN number. They can call it out to you to make themselves look legit. Say, okay, carry your card, there is this, you have a problem with it, tell us the last 3 digits, whatever, or tell us the 3 digits behind your card. We want to try to process something to find out if it is you. Now, these are just methods which these scammers or these hackers or these threat actors, these bad actors try to get information about you and all of that. So it's very important that we know, always verify those individuals. Of course, just to chip in, when you get calls like that, if you're in the mood, you can play around, but if you're not, or if you're unsure, you can just tell them to, you can hang up and then tell them you'll get back to them and try to find out the legitimacy of that phone number that's called you and how the phone number is connected to whatever the person is claiming to be. Now, why do they want your identity? Of course, long-term profits, medical benefits, file a fixed tax return, open credit card account, obtain loans. Now, this course was tailored based on the experience in the United States. So we don't use, I don't think we use credit cards here, use your debit cards. So they try to, get access to your debit cards and whatever it is to try to, obtain money and all that. Now, this is not the only method. There are also other methods. We'll be getting onto all of that in a later date. So these are the reasons why they want your identity. This is why they want it, because they want to gain financially from it and all that. So what is organizational data? I talked about the fact that we have the personal data, we have organizational data. So for those of us who are working and all of that, what kind of data are characterized as organizational data? What are the traditional data that has to do with application materials, payroll, offer letter, employment agreements, intellectual, that has to do with patents, trademarks, product plan, trade secrets, financial, it has to do with income statements, balance sheet, cash flows, and all that. These are traditional data that belong to your organization. And then we have the Internet of Things and big data. Now, just to give a small overview of Internet of Things and big data. We are moving towards the world now where everything is connected. Everything you do now can be controlled from anywhere. And we've heard of smart homes, when you come and then you just, before you get home, you can access your house, put on the AC before you get, for those who stay in hot regions, you can just access your house and say, okay, put on the AC before I get home so that once I come in, I come into a chilled environment. Or you have some people who like coffee while they are on the bed, while their alarms wakes them off. They just, get their tablet, their home tablet that controls the network within the house or their smart home. Just, start making coffee for me before I get there and all of that. So if the world is slowly, not the world is slowly now, fast, we are very fast into that point of Internet of Things. And Nigeria is going to get there. I believe that, because a lot of smart homes already are available in several places and all of that. Now, sensors and the likes, all these things actually work with sensors. They work with certain devices that you are controlled by other devices. Now, they generate data at every point in time because those data help them to make decisions. Now, these data, vast amount of data. We have an example of this in, is it Barcelona now, where you have some certain streets where the refuse disposals there, just a big truck or that a big container that contains refuse and all of that. When it gets to a certain point, a sensor alerts the environmental agency, okay, this place is already full, go and empty it and all of that. Those are sensors, they are generating data, and this thing culminates into what we call the big data. So that's what Internet of Things and big data is. Now, your organization can be into that, people that work in energy, that work in IT and all of that. You have systems that generate data at all times and all of that. You have certain construction companies that make use of certain sensors and all of that. So these are part of your organizational data. Could also be your own data once you have a smart home and all of that. So what is the whole idea of confidentiality, integrity? It's like an organizational framework of security framework for organizations. And what does it really mean? Confidentiality, privacy, integrity, and availability. So let me try to give a very quick definition of what it is, just to help you understand what it means. Let me get somebody's name here. Okay, let me just use the names that have their hands raised. Akande Oluwaseun, and then we have Yere Justina. So let's assume that Akande here wants to send a message to Justina. And normally, of course, Akande has a system, Justina has a system, and then let's assume Justina wants to go get something to eat. Understand? And then she sends a message and say, okay, Alpha, Akande, would you like, to get lunch? Of course, that means there's a communication chain from Akande to Justina. And of course, Akande can reply on his system and say, let me assume what Mr. Akande would like, maybe bread and beans. I don't know if that will, I'm just giving an example. So that communication there moves with a network. Let me try to stop the video so you can see me. So I'll try to explain what that means. So stop the share. So it moves with a certain network. There's a connection from Akande to Justina. So it's a straight line. And then I, Miracle now, can be somebody who is outside that network, but I want to understand, I want to know what these two persons are communicating. So at this point, okay, yes, Akande said fried rice, perfect. So thank you very much, Mr. Akande, for that. So Mr. Akande wants to eat fried rice, but he needs to communicate that to Justina via a network. So it's a straight line. But I'm here, I'm trying to snoop or get to understand what they are communicating about. You understand? So now there is a straight line of communication between the two of them. But once I come into that line of communication, I'm not invited into the conversation. I'm outside their network, but I'm trying to access to get to understand what is being communicated between the two. Now, let me try to, I'm going to use this to explain what the CIA means: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So if at any point I'm so good and I could get to infiltrate the network to get a copy of what is being transferred between Akande and Justina. So the moment I get it and I get to understand, oh, okay, Akande wants to get food, Justina wants to get food, Akande wants fried rice. So I already have an understanding of the communication that is happening between the two of them. So by that, I have breached what they call confidentiality. So they no longer have privacy of the talk that they have between the two of them. So that network now has been infiltrated by me. I have copied it. They may not know. They may not know something like that has happened, but I have violated that confidentiality aspect of the CIA triad for that organization. So you can put an organization into it, like a conversation between a manager and a client, or the industry and a client, and all of that. So now let's now assume that, okay, I already have an idea of what Akande wants. I can now go a step further, to subvert the connection. So in such a way that instead of the connection going straight from Akande's laptop or system to Justina, Akande's system will send the message to me first, and then channel it. I will now channel it to Justina. So I can do that in such a way. He will think he's sending the message directly to Justina, but it's actually going through me. So I can now decide to say, change fried rice to boiled yam and egg, and then forward the message to Justina. Justina will not know. It will still look as if it was Akande that sent this message. But at that point, I have violated the integrity part of that data that is being shared between the two of them. So that data now is no longer a sure data coming validly from Akande to Justina. So I have violated that part of integrity. I've changed the data. So that's what integrity talks about. Now, I can now decide to be wicked and then refuse to allow the message to get to Justina totally. So Justina will just assume, oh, it seems Akande is not even hungry, and goes, and then Mr. Akande stays hungry all through the day, because I did not allow that message to get to Justina at all. So I blocked that connection. There was a request sent, but the reply did not get through. I stopped the connection. I deleted the record so that I will make sure that Akande is hungry. So I have violated the part of availability. So that data that was set, the information that was set, was not now available to Justina at this point. So it's just a brief. Well, that was no brief. I wasted too much time on that. But that's the whole idea of the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data when we are talking about an organization. So that definition that I gave is just for you to understand what it all means. Oh, perfect. So let's quickly go through a lab. Yeah, we still have time. Let's go through the lab to compare data with a hash. So what this lab actually tries to help us understand is the method of hashing. trying to ensure, like, give a certain kind of digital signature that shows that this data was not changed, or this data is exactly the same thing that was sent. It was not compromised. So this hashing actually just takes care of that part of integrity, that part where I do not change Mr. Akonde's fried rice to boiled yam and egg. So that is exactly what this hash will try to, accomplish. So let's try to do this together. So just pay attention to your screen. Let me stop share now and try to share a certain document. Just a second. So we are going to use a notepad to create something. Give me a second. I'm going to share all of that so we get to see. Let me do it this way. Let me share my entire screen for now so that we can access what I'm talking about. All right. I want to believe, just a second. I want to believe we can see something called Untitled Notepad. Please let me know if you can see that. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Akonde. Thank you, Mr. Segun. All right. So, can somebody give us something to type here? Just give me anything to type, maybe like a sentence. I just need a sentence to type. Okay, she is beautiful and hello world. Oh, Tobena, thank you for that. She is beautiful. Full, and let me put hello world here. Hello world. And then we have Cisco Academy currently. Okay, let me put facilitator just to, okay. Wow. All right, facilitator. Oh, today is Friday. Okay, maybe I should type slowly. Today is Friday. All right. World Bicycle Day. Oh, you seem to like a lot of bicycles. That's good. World Bicycle Day. All right, so this is a document and we have stored this. So let's save it. And let's save this document and call it, let me see whose name I'm going to use. World Bicycle Day, Mr. Debo. Let's use Debo hash as the document that was storing. All right, and then we are going to save this. So I'm going to try to bring up a document here. This shared screen is, yeah, so let me bring out this application. Can we see something that shows hash calc? That's showing something on the screen now, like a hash calc. Okay, yes, perfect. So you notice what this application is that it tries to, you put your file inside this application, and then the application generates some certain figures. That's just, I'm just trying to give a very basic explanation. So it just gives some certain figures that goes to show that this is the content of this file is discounted into this value. So if it is different from this value, then it means the content has changed. So we are going to try to get the content of Debo hash. I mean, we are going to get the hash value for Debo, or the checksum for Debo hash file. And then we're going to copy it, put it somewhere, and then we'll compare later. All right. So I'm going to, this is stored somewhere, but let me find out from my system. This is actually an application you can download and install on your system. So there is that file there that shows you how to do that. All right, so we have Debo hash. You see Debo hash here. So I'm going to pick Debo hash and I'm going to click on open. So Debo hash has been selected. And you'll notice that it's MD5. MD5 here is what we are going to be using. Of course, there are other ones here that we can use, and all of them have different string value and length and all of that. So we are going to be making use of MD5. So the name of the application is hash calc. Hash calc is here. Once you get to your lab, you see there, you can download it on your system. So I'm going to go straight here and just click on calculate. And you notice that a value has appeared right in front of the ticked MD5 value because I want the MD5 value of this file. So you see a long string of word. So I'm going to open another notepad and just put this file here. I mean, put this value here. So you will see that the value ends with, let's see. Trying to, all right, put the font so it could be bigger. Just a size, just a second, 28. All right, it's fine. All right, so I want to believe this is a bit bigger for everybody to see. Sorry that my screen is scattered at the moment. So can we all see this value that ends with 7? 37. 37. Perfect. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through this file. I'm just going to remove only the Y in today's Friday. Only that Y. And I'm going to save this file. I'll go back to my hash calc and then load that file again to make it seem like a new file. Debug hash, open it. You see that this value has disappeared, and then calculate again. And I have a value. I'll come here to this other place here and paste it. So at this value, or is this value the same? Anybody? Can you check it? This value is not the same, and it is just because I changed one value or one letter inside that file that I have here. I removed Y in Friday. So let me put that Y back in Friday and see if it is going to give me this figure back. You will notice that this is actually the same length. This is actually the same length. It's because we're using MD5. It's another type of hashing this we're using to actually have a different length. So let me rush this. I'm going to load and bring up the hash calc again. And I'm going to load this. I just hope there was no space, because even a space can change it, can change the value. All right. So I'm going to copy this and then bring it here. So compare this value with the one on top. Compare the third value, this one highlighted with the one on top. Are they the same? They are the same. So this means that this data is unchanged. So if I send you something and you have an access to the checksum of the file that was sent, you will know that when you download that material or that file or that information, or you are trying to store a particular information on your system, whatever it is, and you calculate the checksum and it does not tally with the one that is sent to you, it means somewhere, somehow, something has been changed on that file or in that information. So in order to ensure integrity, that's why we have this kind of hashing, to hash our data, to ensure that, of course, it is not at any point in time tampered with. All right, so that's the lab. And Cisco has a lot of very interesting labs like this, that you get to understand what all these things are, all this hashing, and it works. There's where you go into more fully into the field of cybersecurity, you get that part of cryptography, how to encrypt data and all of that. They are actually what they call ransomware, where they encrypt data, for you to pay a certain sum of money. We're going to get to all of these later. And for those of us who have read the material, you see that all these things are actually very, very easy. So let me go back to our slide and let's quickly rush some of these things. And just a second. I'm trying to share my screen again so we can all be on the same page. All right. Show all windows. I've had too many windows open. Interesting. All right. I want to believe that we can all see my screen now. So let's go to the next slide. The impact of a security breach on an industry, on an organization, and all of that. Now, can we always defend, or can we always say that a security breach will never happen on an organization? That's an emphatic no. It's not possible, because no matter how good you are, these guys are very good, and there is always that vulnerability. Vulnerability is more like an access to explore. Let me explain it this way. Okay, let's take, for example, you have a house and you usually lock the front door of your house, but for some reason you just close the back door. So that means that means that house is vulnerable to attack if the attacker uses the back door instead of making use of the front door. So that's the vulnerability in that house now, is the back door that you just jam without actually locking. So there are certain vulnerabilities that even as a professional, you may not know until those vulnerabilities are exploited. So one cannot really say that all attacks can be prevented. All attacks can be prevented, but of course, one can also mitigate the attack to ensure that a lot of these data breaches are detected on time, and there's no loss, there's no huge financial loss at any point in time. So attackers will always find new ways, and this impact can lead to ruined reputation. Now you can see that ruined reputation is even above revenue loss. Now, if we come to all these banking industries and all of that, no matter how good their security is, the truth is that they won't tell you if they have been attacked at any point in time. Because just for those who are into betting and all of that, you find out there was a time when Bet9 was hacked. You understand? So there are some people now that have chosen that, okay, since the Bet9 was hacked, I don't want to use that platform again, because it seems those people are not serious with what they are doing. So I'm going to go to another betting. Mr. Akande, it seems you lost money. Sorry. So you might, some people will go, okay, they want to go to a different, betting company. You understand? Because they don't want that thing to happen again. Nobody likes their money being played with. You understand? So at that point in time, they've lost that reputation. Their reputation has been ruined because what people now have an understanding is that they are not competent enough to protect my money. The money that I want seriously, even if I use 100 naira to win 1 billion naira, it's still my money. So you're supposed to protect it at all time. And I also have data, of course, on online. So of course you need to ensure that my data is not compromised at any point in time. So that's why you see that banks will not tell you, because if GT Bank comes and say we were attacked, everybody will carry their money and start putting it in First Bank. People will open accounts and carry that. I say, no, me, I don't want stories. So because I know I don't have money to carry these people to court to collect my money and all of that. So their reputation is on the line if they, of course, let you know something like that happened. So reputation is even above financial loss, because the reputation there, it's very hard to get it back. So we have vandalism for example, maybe oil industries that make use of certain machinery, especially in the upstream sector, and that has to do with the exploration and production stage, where they mine, get to where they have their rigs and their wells. They get to get how do I put it now? Where they are exploring for crude oil and the rest. So there could be machineries and all of that controlled by setting, because they also deal with automation in some parts there. So if they are attacked at some point, there could be vandalism when it comes to all their equipment, you understand? So that can also occur. Theft of personal information of trade secrets by the organization, revenue loss, of course, that is there, and then damaged intellectual property and all of that. So we have a breach example here, LastPass. but we've talked about Bet Nigeria, which is also which is an example that we cannot relate with. So we don't need to talk too much about LastPass and all of that. You can read all of these. These are real life examples of data breaches that occurred or that affected certain organizations, and we get to see how these attackers actually access their information and what they did with it, how they got to take certain things. So there is a lab here. This lab has to do with research. And it's something you can do on your own. You just do your research. Once you have your phone, you don't need a system for this. If you have a phone that you have, Jumbo, what's going on? All right, let me clear drawings. Thank you. So you can check out the lab later. We're not going to be doing that lab. So attackers and cybersecurity professionals. So we have different types of attackers. We have the white hat, we have the gray hat, we have the black hat, as you can see in this image here. What's going on? Mr. or Mrs. Jumbo, please, you can practice later. Just allow us to make use of this screen. Just a second, let me try to, all right, so you won't be able to do that now. So we have the amateurs, that is script kiddies, that's the hackers. Not all hackers are actually hackers. You know, this information is actually online. You know, somebody out there can drop steps on how to do these, steps on how to do that. And somebody can just, you know, follow the steps one after the other and use it to exploit somebody. Now, such a person might claim to be an hacker, but a hacker or whatever, but it's not. Well, it could be a part of the hacker, but they call them script kiddies. They are kiddies in the business. So they are actually just following instruction or using tools that has been made available, developed by somebody, a proficient person when it comes to all this programming and all that. So those are types of attackers. Then we have hackers themselves. You see that they are not even classified as hackers. Hackers themselves break into computers or networks to gain access. So we have the white hat, gray hat, and black hat. So what's the difference between these three persons? The white hats are the kind of what they call ethical hackers. They're ethical because they come to your organization or they come to you and say, okay, we want to hack into your system. And then once we're able to hack into your system, we'll give you the results so that you will see what to do to protect your system from these certain vulnerabilities that were found on your system. Now, they will come with permission to discover weaknesses so that the security of these systems can be improved. Those are white hat hackers. That's why they have the white hat. Then we have the gray hat. So the gray hats are not actually bad guys, but it's that they won't ask for permission. They will just go ahead and do it. And then at the end of it, they will now give you the result and say, we hacked your system, we hacked your network, we hacked your organization or your website organization, and we found out that this and this wrong with it. So here is the report, and here is what you can do. You should pay attention to this, pay attention to that, and all of that. The difference between white hat and gray hat, of course, one asks for permission, and then the other does not. Then we have the black hats. Those are the bad guys. Their own is to, you know, get your information, get whatever they need, either runs through ransomware, collect money from you, or cause damage, and all of that. Then we have organized hackers. Now, they are organizations of cyber criminals, activists, terrorists, state-sponsored hackers, and all of that. These definitions are there. Let me just try to run through it. You can of course look at that later. Let's just finish this first so we can quickly take, you know, just 5 minutes of question. I'm so sorry that I took too much time when I was trying to explain. All right, so we have different kind of threats. We have the internal threats and we have external threats. So it's not every time that a company's system or a company's network is compromised that it is actually from a hacker. It can be from an insider who maybe mishandled confidential information or threatens operation of internal servers either by what the person did, either intentionally or unintentionally, and then facilitate outside attacks by connecting USB media into the corporate computer system that's collected. That's why you see some banks, people that work in banks, some of them, they don't allow USBs into the organization. Some of them, they don't even allow their phones. I don't know if they do that now. They don't allow anything that can be plugged into the network because such a person can be working with somebody outside and just need something to be installed in the internal network that the person can now use access from the outside network. So this was explained in the material. We can look at it. And we have the external threats that they are outside. They are not inside the organization, but they exploit vulnerabilities in the network or computing device or use social engineering processes to get through it. So cyber warfare, this is where I talked about the fact that we're not going to be using the Stuxnet. What is cyber warfare really? It's just using conflicts, that's the war, but on the cyberspace level. So the example I talked about that I said I will use is the Russia-Ukraine war. I'm sure many of us heard about it, and we're all saying they should not come to Nigeria and all of that. Now, if you notice and if you followed it well, they didn't just start with carrying guns and tanks and helicopters. Certain things happened first. One, Russia started launching attacks, cyber attacks towards Ukraine. Now, fortunately for Ukraine, they had professionals who were able to, try to mitigate, try to respond to those things to ensure that the breaches are not fatal. And then they have some very good offensive guys who could also retaliate. So it now became, I sabi book, I sabi system pass you, I sabi all of that. And then, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If Ukraine didn't have professionals or didn't have a very good security architecture with their vital organizations, their government and all of that, the war would have ended with Russia taking control of all their systems and then just telling you that if you don't do this, we're going to wipe this entire data, we're going to wipe this, we're going to wipe this, you have to give us this and all of that. And it wouldn't have resulted. But because the two of them were, of course, they had that expertise. In fact, Ukraine even started asking for expertise from the US and the likes. I wonder why they didn't ask Nigeria, but we are not offended. There's no problem. We're getting there. So the question is, if at any point a state-sponsored attack or a cyber warfare was launched on Nigeria, will we be able to ward it off? That's a question for us to answer later. So this Stuxnet is actually a malware that was used and all of that. So there are certain malwares that were used that really are synonymous with what was happening between Ukraine and Russia. So I will just task everyone, go to just type anything, cyber attacks, Ukraine and Russia, get to understand what happened, what is happening, because it's still happening to date. So that's just an example, a practical example of cyber warfare. And of course, the purpose of cyber warfare to gain advantage and sabotage infrastructure, give attackers the ability to blackmail government personnel and all of that, to make citizens lose confidence in their government's ability to protect them. All right, so I've been able to go through chapter 1 summarily. I'm sure we have a better understanding of the idea why you as an individual needs the knowledge of cybersecurity. There's a study by the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States that gave the figures that currently, as we speak, we have over 2.2 million spaces on field when it comes to cybersecurity professionals. The world is advancing, is going up, technology is advancing, data is being generated at all times. So there is need to get that cybersecurity professional up there. And that's part of the reason why this is being done, so that you as a person, if you want to venture into the field of cybersecurity, there is space out there, it's enough. But we need people to venture into this field, at least not just to protect yourself, but to protect your organization and, in future, protect the country in general. So we just have maybe 1 or 2 minutes. I'm so sorry that I took too much of your time. Just 1 or 2 minutes to take questions. So if you have any question, you can please, okay. We notice that many people hack around cybersecurity. What can we do to stop that? So there is a part where we are going to go into the course where that has to do with having strong password. Most of us use very easy password. Use your date of birth, your name and your date of birth. Use the name of your first son. Use the name of your last son. You use very simple password to get. Use your middle name as your password to account. And there are also several means that these people can social engineer you into even revealing your own password without you knowing about it. So I personally conducted something like that, like a research on one of my friends. And I just asked her, I said, what's your middle name? And she told me, and I knew her date of birth. And all I just did is get access to her username. I went to her TikTok. Was it TikTok also? I just put in her middle name and the last 2 digits of her year of birth, and I was in. And I went back to her and told her, this is your password. So some of these things doesn't need too much programming. When you are using simple passwords, it is very easy for you to be attacked, because there are two-factor authentications that you can implement on accounts like your Facebook, your whatever, and it will make sure that your data is secured. Okay, what's the position of Python in cybersecurity? So Python really in cybersecurity has to do with you being able to automate certain tasks. So there are many tasks in cybersecurity, especially the part of reporting, because everything you do in cybersecurity needs to be reported. It's for this actually is for professionals. Everything needs to be documented. So those are mundane tasks that you can actually automate, such that as you are performing the action, there's a certain system that is documenting these things for you. So this can be obtained, or this can be done using scripting. And with that scripting, of course, Python, that's for the person that has the question, talk by title, is a high-level scripting language. So you can actually use it to perform certain automation or automate some certain tasks on related to cybersecurity. All right. Okay. Multiple authentication. Yes, two-factor authentication can always help, but make sure that what you're using as your two-factor authentication, you always have access to it. You don't lose it at any point in time. Always remember it. For example, I did a lot of authentication on one of my accounts like that. And today I've even locked my own self out. I don't have access to it again because I deleted the application that I used for the two-factor authentication. So as you are implementing two-factor authentication, make sure you always have access to that thing you used. Okay. Yeah. What I'll just, Abubakar Abdullahi, what I'll just give you is that you just go sit down and find out, just type Stuxnet on the internet. There are a lot of articles. Actually, there are a lot of cybersecurity professionals that wrote different articles on how this was mitigated, how or what was done to ensure that it actually was prevented. So you can read up on it, look at the strategies they used, look at the things they did and how they were able to do that. Okay, I noticed, okay, hack out the email. Okay, I noticed there was a time I was in a cafe, a guy hacked all our emails and we were able to log in again. Not until you told us we lost our account and restored it back, copying the necessary, blah, 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 and all of that. Some of us, when you log into you need to be very careful at when you use cyber cafes and all of that, because they can have some certain things on their system that stores your username and your password. Even if you log out, your information has already been stored. So that's why it's very important. Don't just go to any cyber cafe. You have to go to trusted places. And for you to be safe, use your own system. And when you are performing some certain tasks, don't always AWOOF is not always good. When you see free network and you are performing your financial financial things on that free network, the person providing you network can have a backdoor where he accesses the information, what you put in as username, what you put in as password, have a copy of it, and then wait for like 1 or 2 months and then attack your account, wipe out your account, and then you'll be finding and wondering what happened. It was one place where you fell into an AWOOF, just wanted to quickly use free internet, and that's it. Okay. Interpreting data in what manner, sir? I don't get that question. Can this course be studied for MSc? Person won't lose will while studying. Well, basically, this should be the last final question I will answer. You don't need to have extreme computer skills to come into the field of cybersecurity. That's why you are taking this introductory course. You can actually build on it. What you need really is a basic knowledge of networking. Once you have a basic knowledge of networking basics and all of that, you can get into the field of cybersecurity so that you get to understand the terms that are being used, especially when they are talking about certain things. You get to relate to it better. Cisco Netcard has a lot of introductory courses for networking basics and the rest. You can just go to the website, pick it up, and get yourself enrolled into the course and get to understand it, and then you build up from there. Of course, I said there is another phase of essentials, cybersecurity essentials, for those of us who have completed the course, because some people have actually completed this course that we're doing right now. It's because it's very easy to complete. So once you are done with that, you can move to the next level. Then you keep going from cybersecurity essentials. From there, you go to CyberOps Associate as a certification, industry certification by Cisco, and then you go into network security, CCNA, network security, and all of that. All right. Yes, can we start to attempt the quiz? The quiz is open. You can attempt it. You can finish the course even before we get there, and go to the next phase. So I want to believe that we were able to understand a little bit of what we are talking about, to understand why cybersecurity is important to you as an individual, to ensure that your own data as an individual is protected at all times. So this is the conclusion of chapter 1. I will encourage you to read up more on chapter 1 if you have not finished chapter 1, and then go on to chapter 2 and then continue like that. We'll have this meeting next week, Friday, 4 to 5, and we're going to be reviewing chapter 2. We'll do it that way until we get to the final chapter of this course. The material is on Netcard. If you have issues, there's a mail I sent that has the email addresses of all the instructors. Mine is Miracle David, mdavid@noun.edu.ng. My guy here is Mr. Segun. His own is sbuhari@noun.edu.ng. And we have Bello, Abubakar Bello, Mr. Abubakar Bello, abdello@noun.edu.ng. So if you have any issues, please send up an email and we are going to attend to it right away. Did you enjoy this class? Please, if you enjoyed this class, please let me know on the chat session. All right, Sahid said he did. Okay, that's fine. Did you learn anything? If you did, oh, that's wonderful. You are going to get a certificate, of course, of completion after this course, and you get a badge that you can share with your friends and let them know that, yes, you are getting will I say, the knowledge of cybersecurity. You as an individual, you are now more secure on the online digital space. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you in the next class. So, Mr. Segun, do you have any information for us before we end the class?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, perfect. We can hear you now.
Okay. I said it's been a wonderful time, and I really appreciate all the participants. It's sure been a wonderful experience. How you secure yourself, cybersecurity, and the likes. This is just an introduction, as we have been told. And of course, this is just to pep up our interest. The space is so wide and we need people. The world needs you to fill up those spaces. Next week, Friday is going to be another great time. I'm sure you don't want to miss it. Until then, God bless you. See you then.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And from here, it's bye-bye to everyone.